Yo, Patrick Mallet here. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down some of the lessons that I learned during production of my first feature film. The documentary is about a 75-year-old sled dog racer dealing with the reality of retiring from competitive racing. This project has been my baby for the past couple years and was completed with a very small crew and minimal resources. My goal in sharing some of these lessons is to hopefully help you in your filmmaking journey so you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did along the way and maybe be better prepared. Primary production for this film spanned about 2 weeks, and it was over the course of my main character's final sled dog race. Some lessons are a little bit specific to the story and the way I went about capturing it. So keep that in mind. This isn't a one-size-fits-all for all documentary films. But maybe there's some gold nuggets that'll be mixed in there that you'll be able to take away. And let's dive in. Here are my key takeaways. Embrace your decided visual style. In my previous video about lessons I learned in pre-production, I emphasized the importance of deciding on a visual style before filming. For me, in my film, I chose a mix between home video and fly on the wall. Making this decision in pre-production helped me understand what visual language to speak during production. At no point did I feel confused or overwhelmed about how to capture the race. Because I was operating solo, I knew I wouldn't be able to overcomplicate the process by making things look too polished. The style that I chose, lended itself to being captured in a run and gun type approach. And that really allowed me to focus on composition, story, interact and ask questions during certain moments, and then try to be invisible during other moments. It took me a day or two to find my groove, but once I found it, I was able to embrace it for the rest of the race. Having this ironed out beforehand gave me mental clarity while shooting and allowed me to remain consistent visually throughout the film. Know when to stop recording. I feel like this is a skill that isn't really talked about too much in the documentary world, but I think choosing when not to film something is just as important as choosing when to film something. With documentaries, I feel like the initial instinct is to just record everything because of the fear you might miss key moments. But in reality, a max coverage approach can be counterproductive. Choosing not to film everything can help you save storage, avoid record burnout, and most importantly, build trust with your characters. In the beginning, I was essentially a stranger to my characters, and I knew the early days would be critical in helping them become comfortable with me and the camera. This is going to be different for everyone, but it could be as simple as having a conversation and not rolling during it. Showing your characters that you're serious about making a film, but you can turn off the camera and shoot the breeze like a regular person. I also feel like record burnout goes for both parties. If you're just recording everything, you might start to lose touch with the moments that are actually important. And if your characters see you recording everything, then they might become fatigued by your presence because they feel like they have to always be on when you're around. Overall, this is a tricky point to get across because I would never recommend someone to stop recording if you don't fully understand the flow or format of what it is you're filming, because in that situation, you might miss something important. For me, the race format was very similar each day, so my intuition for when to record got better as the race went on. We also had a few days together before the race started, where I was able to build a quick personal relationship with my characters without always having the pressure of the camera around. Like I said, every project is going to be different, and you'll need to figure out what works best for you and your characters. Know when to shut the fuck up. Depending on the style of your film, you, the person behind the camera, may be a supporting character. It's super important to develop a sense for when to participate and when not to participate in the events unfolding. During the first couple days of production, when I was trying to gain trust with my two main characters, I caught myself continually reassuring them as I was listening when I asked them questions. You'd hear me behind the camera giving the classic, yep, mixed with a little bit of record burnout and going into autopilot. I was doing this a lot in the beginning. Luckily, as time went on and some trust was built, the need to constantly reassure them wasn't as present. It depends on the film, but sometimes that voice behind the camera can be distracting for your viewer, especially when a character may be experiencing a certain emotion. Like the previous point, every project is going to be different, Some people may be uncomfortable without any reassurance while responding to your questions, and maybe it's worth having a conversation beforehand to let them know that you're going to be mute behind the camera. It's up to you to decide what's best for you and your characters and the story you're trying to tell. Allow yourself to be a part of the journey. I feel like this is an overarching theme for the past 3 points, just trying to be present throughout the whole process. So then in part, you can take care of your story and your characters. I knew beforehand that we were going to be staying at host families and motels across Western Wyoming. And as an introvert, I remember thinking before the trip, oh, it might be nice to, get my own room and be able to recharge on my own. By the time we got to the first motel, we had already stayed with 2 different host families, and I had already kind of allowed myself to be a part of the journey so much that I didn't really want to get my own room with the fear that I potentially disconnect from my characters in a certain way. Luckily, they were more than happy to have me sleep on the ground with my sleeping pad, and things probably would have been different if we hadn't gotten along so well. But for me, sharing a motel room and bumming it on my sleeping pad allowed me to be more a part of the journey. Be kind. Do your best to give your characters as positive of an experience as possible. They're opening up your lives for you to document, and that can involve a lot of trust. For me, kindness meant helping out with driving, paying for a meal, and like I mentioned before, knowing when not to record. In turn, this may allow your characters to open up more naturally and see you as a friend and not just someone looking to tell their story. My main character had experienced documentary crews before, and he had shared a negative experience that he had. That was in my mind going into this film. How can I, help maybe change his perspective a little bit on people in our industry and people that are interested in telling stories to make things more positive. That wraps things up for what I learned during production of my first feature film. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you got some insight and hopefully learned something practical that you can apply to your next film. If you want to see more videos about the making of this film or the film itself, you can check it out in my channel. See you next time.